Hey everyone, today I'm going to break down my creations from the second week of the Airwiggles April Audio Challenge, but to keep things nice and short, to prevent me from going on and on, rambling about nonsense for too long, I'm just going to talk about the few elements that I believe are the standout and most important parts of the sound for that particular day. Again, shout out to Airwiggles for putting together this competition and putting together a very diverse collection of sounds to really stretch the range of our sound design chops. And all of the videos that you see, the games and the artists, the links to those, again, are going to be in the description below. And I'd recommend checking them out because everything that I've worked on has really been inspiring to me, and I want to see more from these creators. The first one we're going to go over is Day 8 from this clever 2D platformer called Necrowave. Out of all the sounds that we've had this month, we haven't had the opportunity to mess around with squishy and crackly, gory sounds, so this one was a lot of fun. As you can see, I have basically over 10 tracks of just gore sounds, of squishes, of bones breaking, and I really tried to focus on lining everything up to all of the little things in the animation, making sure the bones are cracking whenever the head's about to pop off, whenever blood is flying in different directions, having the squishes and the water flying all over the place. That was the main thing I wanted to try to focus on, is getting it accurate to the image. We've got various squishing noises, and we've got bones cracking. All of this together creates something that is unique to the animation. All of the sounds are purposefully placed to the various moments of the head ripping off, the blood flying in different directions, that you wouldn't be able to find a single sound effect for, other than combining all of it together to create something truly unique. All of this gore combined with the various other elements such as the background noise, the footsteps, the Reaper having a little drone to him, and the cute little zombie vocalizations that I recorded into this while having the pitch shifter at a 50% wet so that it has this unnatural sound, really makes everything come alive in the scene, or maybe unalive, undeath, whatever you would want to call it. For Day 9, we have a short but quite tragic one, if I do say so myself. For this one, the main focus for me was movement, both for the car and the fly. Both are moving very quickly and in very different ways, and it was important for me to ensure that both of these movements felt three-dimensional in the stereo space while remaining distinct from one another. There's only two layers happening for the fly itself. One, which is a layer from a sound library I found, and the other, which is a take from something I recorded on top of that. And pitched up, of course. As you can see, I have two different automation curves for this. One, which is panning, as you can hear the fly move from left to right, back to left, and this volume automation, as it moves further away, it's going to get quieter. This creates that three-dimensional space, and instead of it just sitting in the center of the stereo spectrum, it's moving around. It's going back and forth, and also further away from you. For the car, I have a couple different layers together to build the sound of the car, and as you can see, I have different fades on here, and I really wanted to dial these fades in so that it felt as though the car was at a distance for a bit, but it was still coming, so that whenever it did come, it was so fast that the fly had no time to react, and as it moved away, the tail of the sound you could still hear. And with one of these layers, I even have automation of a little bit of pitch shifting to have that Doppler effect in there as well. Day 10 brought us this cute game called Dungeon Slime Hero, and that title by itself is very self-explanatory, as you can see here. Ambience in adventure games is very important, but I feel that ensuring that you're building to a moment is what makes the player really feel empowered for whenever they achieve something or whenever they find something. I haven't added music to any of these challenges. I mainly wanted to focus on the sound design of it all, but whenever the slime moves to the different room and approaches the chest, I wanted it to feel a little bit more powerful than whenever they're outside of the room themselves. These two whoosh sounds for whenever we move through the dungeon, through the walls of the dungeon, are layered in to emphasize the speed at which we're moving, to increase the anticipation for what the next room has to hold. For the treasure chest, I found a sample that just worked perfectly on its own, which was the chest opening and having the shining sort of sound whenever the chest shines in the animation. And this builds the anticipation even more and says, what you have found is special. What you found is magical. We also have some magical sounds for whenever the sword is moving through the air to show the energy, and then whenever it lands, the power at which this item is that the player is about to acquire. And then whenever it lands, we have a couple different layers here as well. Building the ambience up to that moment of collecting the item, from going from one room to the other, walking up to the chest opening, and the item being revealed. We learned this from Zelda, of how much that can increase the excitement in a player. With day 11, we have this treasure of a clip from a pirate MMO game called Plunder, Scourge of the Sea. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the beach several times over the past couple of years with my recording equipment and get some very, very lovely beach sounds over the course of that time. And I felt really empowered with this sound, as being able to use a large majority of my own sounds for this and make it sound very uniquely mine. We have the ocean waves here, and adding the wave sound as it's crashing for whenever the shark comes towards the boat, in addition to some other splashing sounds to emphasize that. As well as adding some other layers to build the ambience of being on a boat out in the middle of water, such as some seagulls in the distance, the sails of the ship flapping, and the sound of the boat creaking every now and then. I decided to have a little bit of fun with the ending of this since it was so ridiculous, so I added some music in the end with some extra in-your-face sounds for whenever you catch the shark. Day 12, and we have this short sci-fi clip from a roguelike called Battle Shapers. Often the appeal of sci-fi is the high-end tech, the power behind it, and the wonder of everything in the world that you're immersed in. So I mainly tried to focus on making this just sound as big and epic as possible. Maybe a little bit too much. And whether it's the layers like these footstep sounds, or the layers for the gauntlet itself, such as this, getting the power behind everything was layering all of it together. So we have a bunch of sci-fi mechanical sounds like this. We have some more robotic movements, servo sounds with this. We've got some data glitchy sort of sounds with this. And then we also have some just wobble and extra metal hit sounds down here. And in between the footsteps and the fist coming in, I wanted to have that turn of the camera be a little bit more interesting, so I added this layer of alien chopper whoosh with some pitch shifting and also some time shifting to make it fit to everything going on. Again, building to that moment at the end where the fist comes together. We've got some motion design for day 13, this user interface, futuristic, maybe investigative sort of tech. So since this was on the weekend, there was the optional challenge for this, which was to only use your own recorded sounds. I was a little nervous about this at first, but I just happened to find on my computer some old glitch and interference sounds from whenever I was messing around with different sorts of tech back in the day, and also had some interference happening at some point that I just decided to save. I'm not going to explain these too much, but these are different interface and glitch sounds that I had that are running through pitch shifters that are pushing them up 3, 4, even sometimes 5 octaves to be able to make them fit the way that I wanted to. And I was okay with pushing them that far because even if that sounded super unnatural, it's already computerized sound, so it worked perfectly with being able to pitch things up. And then, of course, I made sure that every aspect visually had its own distinct sounds. And then, using a little bit of panning for things in the visual space. And in some cases, even using the kilohertz transgate, especially for the main sound like this, which on its own sounds constant. But with the transgate, it gives it a stutter effect that makes it sound even more glitchy. And finally, day 14 is from this cute retro style 3D platformer called Hoppin' Marty. I'm going to be honest, I'm not super satisfied with this because I wanted to stick with the optional weekend challenges. That was kind of my goal. I wanted to take on that extra challenge. And I feel that the final result for this one, which the challenge was only using synthesized sounds, much like last week for Blade's song, just gave a very weak result. And I'm not that great at trying to replicate sort of more realistic sounds. I had a lot of struggle messing around with something of the gear sounds in various synthesizers, whether it was Faceplant, Serum, Vital, Massive, just trying to find something that made it sound like a gear, and even trying to craft that myself. I just wasn't able to do that, and I spent way too much time on that and not focusing on other elements of the sound, such as the jumping or the item collection. I just would consider this really the only sound so far that I've put in that's unfinished. If I were to come back to this again, I would ignore the synthesis only challenge completely, because I feel that for the betterment of the final product, I would be more comfortable messing around with other samples to get the result that I'm looking for, if not recording my own stuff that's not synthesized. But I feel that this is a very much a learning opportunity for me to know that maybe that's a weaker side of my skill set. I'm good at synthesizing, abstract sounds and maybe designed sounds, but making something sound more realistic with a synthesizer, not something I have a lot of practice with. But we're almost halfway through this April challenge, and I am still feeling it. I'm not losing any steam. It's been a great opportunity to be able to practice and experiment without fear of perfectionism. Like the video if you're enjoying these breakdown videos, and if you want to see me post the rest of them that I'll have coming out in April, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll be posting some other sound design stuff on this channel in the future as well. But that's about it for this one. I know I kind of condensed it a lot more, and I feel it's more contained to the main meat of everything. And I hope that works out well. I hope you guys enjoy it. So thank you all for watching, and have a good one.